In this section, we will learn a little bit more about Egypt. The geography of Egypt is a bit different than what we've already seen. As you can see, the most civilized part of Egypt is to the northeast, but there are some civilized areas down the east coast along the Nile River. The coastlines you can find along Egypt are to the north by the Mediterranean Sea, and to the east along the Red Sea, which then leads down into the Gulf of Aqaba. Some of the places that border Egypt are Libya to the west, the Gaza Strip and Israel to the northeast, and the Sudan to the south. Here are different couple sceneries that you can find when visiting Egypt. Just a fun fact for those who may not know, but the Egyptian pyramids weren't actually built by the Egyptians, but more so by the earlier civilians in Egypt. To the right is more of a city scene that you may be able to find in Egypt along most of the major cities near the Nile River. When it comes to agricultural setting in Egypt, only about 4% of the land is used for agriculture, which is actually very little. The climate is pretty hot and warm during the day, but cools down quite a bit at night. There is little rain that actually comes down in Egypt, and there's only 3 rain belts, which are listed here. The agriculture is concentrated around the river and the Delta coast, primarily because if any kind of agriculture was done anywhere else throughout Egypt, it would be very hard to find the water to supply to the plants and the crops. Livestock is also very popular here and one of the main things that Egyptian people rely on. The manure is also then used as a nutrient poor soil, similar to how we do it here in the US. The flag is a bit unique too. It was established officially as the Egyptian flag on October 4th of 1984. The colors on it, as you can see, the red, the white, and the black, are Pan-Arabic colors. The red stripe symbolizes that before the 1952 revolution, army forces officers came to power after disposing of King Farouk. The white stripe represents that struggle against British occupation, but the revolution had ended in the monarchy without bloodshed. The black stripe then represents the end of the oppression of the Egyptian people at the hands of the monarchy and the British colonialism. So this goes to show that their flag basically represents the end of the Egyptian monarchy and the freedom of the people. This all happened on February 28th of 1922, which then they declared February 28th as their Independence Day. As I had mentioned, the population of Egypt is actually pretty small. As you can see, that only a small section of Egypt is actually civilized. As of June 26th, about 95 million people lived in this small area of Egypt in the northeast and down along the coast of the Nile. However, even though there are so many people that live in Egypt, it only makes up about 1.27% of the world population. That equals out to be about 248 people per square mile. And just like the other countries we have learned about, the life expectancy that you can see here in Egypt is pretty accurate and a very good median range as here in the US. The economy. is a lot better than that of what we've seen previously. A lot of the money made through the Egyptian economy is used for industry, services, and agriculture, with services still being number one on the list. Their GDP is actually very good in this country. On heritage.org, it actually said that their GDP as of last year was $1 trillion. However, unemployment as of last year was still pretty high at a rocketing 12.1%. Their inflation has also went up quite a bit at a total of 11% inflation. And as you can see in the picture to the right, their economic freedom is okay but not the best, with the world average being about 61 and their economic freedom being about 62. So it's not the best, but it's not horrible for that region. However, Egypt, as you can see, is lower than the world average, with a little arrow that points down into the orange. So even though their GDP is pretty high and very good, their unemployment and their inflation brings down the economic freedom quite a bit. The government in Egypt is relatively new to them since the Egyptian Revolution of 2011. In this government, they hold a semi-presidential republicanism system where a 4-year term president is elected with a unicameral parliament. Their current president is Fattah el-Sisi, which is pictured here. And if you get a moment, please view this video about Egyptian globalization. They talk briefly on the areas of which could be approved and where they may even struggle some. Just like any country, religion is very important. When visiting Egypt, you are likely to see churches as such which belong to the Muslim religion, or the Sunni, which are more prominent to find in Egypt. However, there are other ones that you will find, such as Christian or the Coptic Orthodox. And some of the most worshipped gods that you see worshipped by many religions through Egypt are Isis, Osiris, Horus, Re, Nu, Seth, and as such. And an interesting fact about these churches is that they don't choose just one god to support like the American church usually does, but they support a god that of their own choosing based on their profession. Gods are also represented by an animal of choice. Here, like I said, is a Muslim church that you are likely to find in Egypt. This one's pictured here just happens to be the Church of Alexandria. Egyptian art is also pretty interesting. Khaled Hafez is actually one of the most famous contemporary artists from Egypt who has been working with paintings and videos for over 20 years. The style made usually mixes contemporary art with ancient traditional imagery, such as his work of the Flight of the Half-Gods, which is pictured below here. Just like any other country, some have their own unique ways of meal etiquette. Here, you are to have no pork, alcohol, and you shall not eat with your left hand. Now, some may ask why you shall not eat with your left hand. This is primarily due to sanitary reasons, considering that the majority of them use the left hand when using the bathroom. Other meats must be prepared halal for Muslims. Guests say a phrase similar to bon appetit before the meal, and then a phrase meaning may there always be plenty at your table after the meal. Instead of filling your plate, as many of us do now, it is more polite to return for more food and have smaller portions on your plate when eating at an Egyptian-style dinner. A water pipe is also usually offered after meals, which surprisingly is usually filled with tobacco, marijuana, or hashish, a form of marijuana. If a host serves ice water or other cool drinks towards the end of the meal, this is when you can expect to leave soon or finishing after finishing the drink. Some of their daily meals, starting with breakfast, it's usually a fava beans mash, which you can see in the far back here in this picture. Usually eaten with an Egyptian bread, or they have eggs cooked in ghee with dried beef. Some of their main meals, such as what is pictured here, is hard-boiled eggs, which are simmered for about 6 to 8 hours, balls of fava beans, or garlic and white vinegar meat soup, or spiced meatballs, which is the picture which is shown here to the left or the right. Their desserts are pretty unique. One of the most popular ones is the phyllo pastry, milk, cream, and nuts, which is the ali. They also have a sweet cake made of semolina called besbousa, and a semolina dough and thin noodle-like phyllo pastry called kunaf. Next, we will take some time to learn about Israel and how it may be different or similar to that of the Egyptian Middle East country.